Dolly Madison, she throws a party because Dolly Madison throws the best parties, and you don't turn down a Dolly Madison invitation. And so when she throws her party, it's the first time both sides of the political spectrum are going to be invited into the same place at the same time. And when they show up, she's like, oh, yeah, by the way, boys, my party, my rules, no shop talk. And you have to talk to people from the other side of the aisle. And so when she runs into Federalists that like wine or books, she'll be like, Jefferson, get over here, come talk wine, books with these guys. Whether they like horse racing or sailing or agriculture or music or art, she forces them to have these personal friendships beyond the politics. And that's one of the ways that she works to get over some of this partisanship from the very beginning. And we do find that the Madisons end up being the stewards of the early United States. Her husband, James Madison, he's the one that recognizes the failings of the Articles of Confederation, brings the Constitution into existence. They are overseeing the country during the War of 1812. And so, in many ways, this couple really are the ones that are making sure that it doesn't fall apart at the very beginning. But Dolly is absolutely an important part of that. Now, the dress that I have next to her portrait is going to be from the Smithsonian's First Ladies collection. Now, as I mentioned briefly, the Smithsonian does take credit for defining what is a First Lady. And that comes in the 1900s when two guest curators, and by that it means wealthy women they're not paying, decide to do a fashion exhibition, but they decide that that's not enough to get the American public interested. Now, they happen to be descended from some of these early first ladies, and they have some of their dresses. So they thought that perhaps doing an exhibit of first ladies' fashions would be a bit more of a draw. It's become one of the longest running Smithsonian exhibits, one of the most popular. And so I thought that it would be nice to throw in some of these dresses that you can see on display. Currently, Dolly Madison's actually going to be the oldest one that is on display in the exhibition. Abigail Adams, Martha Washington, they have dresses from those women, but they are so old and in such delicate condition, they can only come out for very short periods of time. Now, not only is Dolly the oldest one you can see in person at the Smithsonian, but you can even see her house. So Dolly Madison has quite the post First Lady career, as well as having a pretty spectacular First Lady career. Of course, she is going to be in the White House during the burning of Washington. Many people are familiar with how she was making a small formal state dinner when Capitol Hill starts burning, and she's like, oh, yeah, they're definitely coming here next. And so she tells the staff to stop working on dinner. They have to get out of there. But there's one thing she is not leaving without, and it is not the silver or the china that they're working with for the dinner. It's not her jewelry. She orders the staff, which is primarily composed of enslaved individuals at this time, to get a painting of George Washington off the walls. Now, the interesting thing is Washington's only been dead for like 14 years at this point. There's lots of people that remember who he is, like what he looks like, and there's like 4 copies of this painting. So, but she decides that this is an important touchstone to American history. So they all get out of there, minutes to spare. The British come in, they eat the dinner that she made, and then burn down the White House. Now, at that point in time, the Capitol could have been moved. There's nothing in DC. Like, there's barely the Capitol and the White House at that point in time. It's the Madisons that decide to rebuild in Washington, keeping DC as the capital of the United States. Now, James Madison is about 20 years older than her, so he does die first. Now, there's a catch. That son that survived the yellow fever epidemic, yeah, he's a cad. Now, for the people listening, don't be cads. Don't fall in love with cads. They'll break your heart. They only care about the women, the booze, and the gambling. And as a woman in this period, she does not control the fortune if there is a man around. And so her son runs through the fortune. She is left destitute to the point that her friends are pretty sure that she is skipping meals. And so Dolly Madison, now her friends are very concerned about this. She's already sold James Madison's papers to Congress. Now, there was some that they decided weren't that important. They didn't want. The friends convinced Congress to buy a second set of his papers at over market value. And so they use that money, they put it into a trust, and they buy this house that still stands on the corner of Lafayette Square. Now, the CAD comment, as I said, so that is basically going to be a young man that's basically he wastes his money away. He doesn't plan for the future. He's always gambling. He's always spending it in the bars and the brothels at this time. And so basically, yeah, it's not somebody that you look up to. He ends up having to be buried in a pauper's grave because he's got no money left. And basically, he is so bad with money and so bad at caring about anybody but himself. His mother has to be taken care of by her friends because he basically refuses to, and he puts her in an untenable situation. So when they buy this house right here, it's on Lafayette Square. It's walking distance from the White House. Now, what that means is that Dolly Madison ends up being an inspiration and a mentor to later first ladies. So this is President James K. Polk and his wife in a photograph. And so it's said that that this might actually have been taken at that house. Now, this is Dolly Madison. She's kind of fuzzy. These photographs used to take a long time to take, and it looks like she might have moved just a little bit. But she's in her basically 80s at this point. And so she's the earliest first lady we have a photograph of. And over here, the young girl, we're going to get to her a little bit later. Her name is Harriet Lane. And the spoiler is she becomes first lady for her uncle, who's the 15th president of the United States. So Dolly Madison is basically the acting first lady, kind of for the third president, official first lady for the fourth president, inspiring first ladies all the way through number 15, directly inspiring. And then many more are inspired by her memory and her legacy.